Welcome to the Common Ego community. My name is Christina. On this channel, we talk about narcissism, emotional abuse, and spirituality. Today, we're talking about the narcissist's fantasy. And we know that the narcissist does kind of live in a fantasy world. They have a false self. And this is true whether they are overt or covert, grandiose or vulnerable. But the fantasy that we're talking about today is not that this version of themselves exists and is true and is wholly who they are. That is a fantasy that they live in. But the part that's so damaging to us afterwards is the fantasy that they know what love is. Now, I'm about to walk through the phases of a relationship with a narcissist to illustrate exactly what I'm talking about. So in the idealization phase, this is when the narcissist shows what they perceive to be love. Now, in this phase, they act in ways that are loving. This is their idea of love. And so you might be wondering, how is this a fantasy? If you ask most people, they'll tell you that love at first sight is either rare or doesn't exist. And it's definitely not something that you're going to experience with every single person you meet. Unless, of course, you're a narcissist. So the narcissist early on in the relationship will fall in love. And this is one of the red flags that you will experience in a relationship with a narcissist. They will say, I love you, very early on in the relationship. Now, they're not the only ones who do this, but it is definitely a hallmark of a relationship with a narcissist. Now, some people will tell you that this is manipulation, and depending on the person you're dealing with, it could be some form of manipulation. But a typical narcissist actually is idealizing you, so they think that you are the perfect mate for them in this phase. And if you want to learn more about the phases of a relationship with a narcissist, I do have a free download that you can access in the description box. And this gives you an overview and a checklist for each phase. So let's compare this idealization phase with a typical relationship. So in a relationship with a narcissist, this is why it can get a little bit difficult to detect. The idealization phase overlaps with what we would call a honeymoon phase in a typical relationship. And that's when you're both showing the best version of yourself. You're not arguing, you're not being ugly to each other, because you really only know each other at surface level. And when you know someone at surface level, it's a little dangerous to actually believe that you love them. So here's where things kind of go astray. So the narcissist is giving you all they've got in this idealization phase. And it's not necessarily genuine. It's not their natural state, and it's not true love. It is idealization. So they're giving you all their best stuff. They're giving you all that idealization. That's what they think love is. Now you, in this relationship, if you've been in healthier relationships, or even if you know what a healthy relationship should look like, you're probably thinking of this as the honeymoon phase. And it feels great because this person is all about you. They're being really nice and they're giving you everything that you need. But so in a typical healthier relationship, you might expect that this honeymoon phase, although it's great and it feels good and you kind of feel like you're walking on clouds, you kind of expect that there's going to be a deeper level of connection. Yes, maybe the ugly flaws are going to come out, and yes, maybe, you may have some arguments or disagreements. You may get to know things about this person that you don't really like so much, but you grow to love them as a whole person, and the connection deepens. So that is, if you're not a narcissist, that is probably what you're expecting out of a relationship. Unfortunately, this doesn't happen with a narcissist. It doesn't happen because they don't have any deeper levels. The connection that you got is, if you're lucky, going to be what you got already, and it's not going to go deeper. So in a relationship with a narcissist, you're always going to feel like you're missing something. And they know something's missing too. And it can't be them, right? That's part of what narcissism is. They cannot take responsibility for their own stuff. You have to be the problem. And so to them, it's not that they have a lack of empathy and can't really form true, deep connections. It's that there's something wrong with you, and you, therefore, are unlovable. So it's not their fault they couldn't love you because you're unlovable. And this person who has deemed you unlovable, even though they might not have said those words, their actions definitely get that point across. They have a bunch of reasons why they think you're unlovable. And there's a whole bunch of things that you can fix, and you can be lovable if. There are always conditions to these very transactional relationships. And that is because a narcissist does not really truly understand what love is. And in a way, it is very sad, but it's not something that you can get sucked into, and it is not a fantasy that you should buy into. Because essentially, in buying into their fantasy, you are unlovable. And that's not the truth. Actually, I believe that everyone is lovable, even those who don't love themselves. It's just really difficult and sometimes very dangerous to have a relationship with somebody who truly does not love themselves. So early on in this relationship, in the idealization phase, that's kind of when you give over your power and your energy to this person because it feels good, because you feel loved. Even though it's a little too early and it seems a little too good to be true, you feel loved and you feel like you're getting something that you were missing. Feel kind of almost like you're complete when you're with this person. And if you have a tendency towards codependency, or if you're in a codependent place, if you're in a very vulnerable place, or a little bit of both, this external validation really is going to make you feel complete because you weren't feeling complete already. And so you buy into it. This is something that you will willingly sign up for. Yes, I will subscribe to this person's opinion of me. I will subscribe to their fantasy. At this point, you don't realize it's a fantasy, but you sign up for their opinion of you. It's great. You love it. It feels good. It makes you feel complete. So you willingly sign on. And you can think of it like a gym membership that you can't get out of, right? You willingly give over your power and your energy. And then that's when the devaluation comes in. And that's when they start realizing something's wrong. You're expecting more out of this person than they could possibly give because there's no depth there. And there is no true love. So you might give actual true love to this person, but they cannot return it. And so there's always something a little bit off, and everyone in the relationship knows it. The narcissist knows it and you know it, but you've already subscribed to their view because it gave you something that you felt like you needed. And if that thing that you needed makes you feel complete and you feel incomplete without it, it is hard to give up that subscription. So while you're hoping for a deeper connection and a true love, the narcissist is also realizing that this relationship isn't going where they think it should be going. And because of what they were doing before, their showing love wasn't true. It wasn't actual love. It's not sustainable in the long term. So they're not going to be able to keep this up forever. They can't continue idealization. They don't want to. And so when that starts falling off, that's when you start realizing that there's no depth to this, that it was great and now it's just, you're just seeing different layers of bad. Sometimes good, but then more different layers of bad. You're not feeling like you're getting closer to this person. You're feeling kind of like they could leave at any time. This doesn't feel like love at all. Yet again, instead of acknowledging that it is the narcissist's deficiency that is causing this, for them, it has to be your fault. And again, they might not say this outright. They might not say you're unlovable, but they absolutely treat you as if you are. And that's something that is very easy to internalize, especially if you already have wounds of being not good enough, being not worthy of love. What they're doing here is they're just triggering those wounds and they're reinforcing them. But here's what you need to know. This isn't the truth. The truth is you are lovable, you are worthy, you are good enough. But you will never be good enough for a narcissist because they're not capable of the kind of connection that you need. And it is 100% their deficiency. It's the fact that they can't access the levels of empathy needed for this human connection that you're after. And regardless of how you've acted in this relationship, none of us are perfect and there may be things that you're not proud of. Being in a relationship with a narcissist can cause us to act in ways that are almost unrecognizable to ourselves. But the important part to understand and how to start healing from this is to fully understand that It was not your deficiency. Everyone's in a different place. A lot of us have stuff that we need to work through, especially if we end up in a relationship with a narcissist. But if you did end up in a relationship with a narcissist, it is almost definitely because not only are you lovable, but you are capable of loving. You have something that this person does not. And the fantasy is the other way around. The fantasy is there's something wrong with you, and that's why this didn't work. But that's not the truth. So if you could relate to this in any way, I want you to kind of spend a little bit of time processing and start thinking about the ways in which you loved this person and the connections that just weren't quite there, even in the best of times. In a nutshell, this is the fantasy. And divorcing the narcissist fantasy isn't about dissolution of marriage. It's about separating yourself from the lie that the narcissist has been telling themselves. It feels very personal, and it's hard not to take it personally. But when you look at things for what they truly are, it really does make sense. And from here, the lesson for all of us is that if you feel incomplete without someone, there's probably something going on there. Either this relationship is abusive and there might be a trauma bond at play, or there's something within you that needs to be addressed. What was the best of this relationship that you felt like you've never gotten anywhere else? Whatever this person was giving you probably has some clues as to what needs to be healed within you, because these point to the reasons why you may not have felt whole in the first place. And if you found this video helpful, I'm going to link to another one that I believe you will find helpful as well. And as always, if you like this video, like, share, and subscribe. These things really do help the channel and the video. And I'll see you next time.